Okay guys, now you've done part A, B, C and D, so you've actually presented your graphs and all that sort of stuff. Now obviously you don't have to do box and whisker plots, but you're expected to do pie graphs, histograms and stem and leaf plots. And obviously made some discussions about why you've chosen those. Now you need to obviously show those to your teacher so they can say, yep, that's good, or no, you need to do some more. The tricky part is this last part of the investigation, which is looking at analysing the data and then interpreting the data in terms of what it meant. Alright, so I'm just going to go through a very, very simple example of some data that we've been collecting through our sample. And what I've done is I've put the data and I've collected two stem and leaf plots. Alright, so I've done the same process again and gone through and collected the same information but for some Year 12 students. Remember we were doing Year 9 students. So if we go back to our question, then we've got to have a question about something we're investigating. So my question might be something like this. Do students in Year 9 use the computer as much as students in Year 12? Alright, so I've collected two samples of 50 students and here are my two stem and leaf plots. Alright, so I've got my Year 9 data at the top, I've got my Year 12 data at the bottom. So what we can talk about here is we've got the same sample size. For this sample here, the average or the mean time they spend on a computer for Year 12s is 13.58 hours and that's 11.34 hours. So that's an extra, roughly an extra 2 hours. And then our median value, which is 50% of the students below and above, is in fact for the Year 12s another 2 hours more than the Year 9s. Alright, if you can see the data itself, both of these are positively skewed. Right, so the data itself is a little bit light on the top end. So these is what we call positively skewed. The data is positively skewed towards that particular end, and so we can talk about comparisons of things that are similar and things that are different. So if I was going to talk about this and write about this, then I'd be saying something like comparing the two sets of data, the stem and leaf plots, right, the mean and the median. The Year 12s are 2 hours more than the Year 9s, right? We can see that obviously Year 12s spend more time on the computer than the Year 9s. It's quite clear for that to be shown there. So an average of 2 hours a week is essentially what they would spend more on the computer than the Year 9 group. Obviously we have some students in Year 9 who are quite excessive, right? So they're actually spending 40 hours, and then we have some students who in Year 9 who don't spend very much time at all. We have some students in Year 12 who don't spend any time at all on computers, right? So, but when you're looking to compare these things, you need to make a discussion about that. So we go back to our particular sheet. It's got some little hints here for you. So what you need to do is compare the mean, mode, and median and the range of the data. So I think the range of that data is pretty well the same. Using your graph, determine the data that you're talking about as skewed or symmetrical by modal. So here we've both got our data as positively skewed. So we have more students who don't spend as much time on the computer than we have students who spend more time. So we actually have some students who spend a lot of time on the computer and may probably skew the data towards that sort of median value that we get of about 13 hours. So what do you think the results obtained with the way they appear? Right, so, and then what inferences can you make about the results that you obtained? Well, the first thing I'd be talking about there is, it's quite clear that the Year 12 spend more time on the computer than Year 9s, and that would be due to the workload that they have at school. So you're talking about what you're seeing and why you're seeing it. So you're making inferences about that. Okay, now, our particular question might be at the start, when we start looking at part F, is do Year 12 spend more time on a computer than Year 9s? So the hypothesis I made in part B is supported. Yes, the data is showing that Year 12 spend on average 2 hours more than Year 9s. right? And then you can talk about the reasons why or why not. Then we're talking about Year 12s being, they've got a lot more study they do, and they have assignments they have to type on computers, where Year 9s might be doing things on computers that are more fun orientated. So they may be spending more time socialising on Facebook. They might be doing more things like playing computer games on their computer. All right. And so therefore that's what you've got to go through and analyse that. So when you do an investigation, you need to have an introduction that's quite clear. You need to have obviously your data set. So obviously explain how you collect your data, and you need to have your data displayed, and then you need to do some sort of analysis of your data, and then finally you'll have a conclusion which you talk about what you've discovered. So here's some little hints here on your sheet that give you some ideas about what you might want to write. And so when you start looking at your conclusion, a summary of the main key findings, a clear statement overall. So that relates back to the aim. So I've shown here that on average the Year 12s use their computer 2 hours more than Year 9s.